Yes. Oh.
Hey folks,
Hey there.
Hey, Jay.
I got a message from Bob saying he probably was going to be out tonight. He's under the weather today. Said he might rally, but was doubtful. But not seeing him here, I think he's probably going to be out. And then, so is George missing tonight? No, I think.
Yep.
I think he is. Yeah.
Yep.
All right.
Majority.
So we'll have a quorum with five of us, right? 1, 2,
Yep.
3, 4, 6, right?
5 here.
There's 4 here. Wait a minute.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Oh, me. Oh, right. I'm sorry. I've hidden my self view. It's like,
Yeah, I did. I made the same mistake. Yeah, as I was counting, double counting myself. All right. So Jeremy from the school. Well, first of all, I'll call the Shutesbury Finance Committee to order at 6:31. Let me hit record. No, it's already recording, right? Yeah. Okay. Jeremy was kind enough from the school committee to rejoin us at this meeting so we can wrap up the discussion we had at our last meeting about FinCom reserve requests that the school made to help deal with some sort of fuel and energy related, climate related issues. So we did make a transfer 2 weeks ago. I'm trying to remember, that was 10,000, right? And that was to cover the anticipated overspend for heating oil.
Yep, that was the one extra tank of fuel oil than we expected.
Okay, got it. That's what a tank cost. Okay, wow.
Yep.
All right. And then you had started a discussion about potentially needing the school needing an additional $6,000
Yeah.
for antifreeze to protect certain elements of the heating system. And
Correct.
Ventilation.
ventilation. Okay. And then you followed up. Let's see. I'm gonna actually share your email. That way you had some follow-up information. Okay. So do you want to just kind of summarize what you were able to?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I just reached out to Ann at the school just to try to get a better handle on exactly what it was that this was being asked for, because I know there was some concern about recharging of the HVAC system and whether that was what it was all about. But really, from what I gathered, it's that there is basically there's a system coil that helps to like open up the air intake from the outside. And in the past that is broken, that is frozen and broken, and it's cost upwards of $10,000 to fix. So the antifreeze is to keep that coil from freezing, and it allows us to get to the ventilation requirements that we're supposed to have that we are not currently meeting. So that was the request. And that was also, I think, why it was sort of time sensitive. I do know that the school has contacted Jamrog and told them to go ahead. So it is getting done. So I'm just coming back. Hopefully this answers the questions that were had last time, that this is a very particular part of the system that needs this antifreeze and this service, and it will get us up to the ventilation that we need to be having in the school.
Great, thank you. I only have one additional question, and I wish I asked it last meeting, so you could, in case it requires some follow-up, but which was that, is this the kind of thing that's a recurring expense that we can anticipate as just like, or is it a function of an unusually cold season?
Yeah, I don't, my sense is not that this is a regular occurrence, just that it is something that has happened in the past and it was identified that the antifreeze needed to be done again.
Okay.
And there was concern, I think, especially with how cold the winter was, there was a concern that it might freeze up
Yeah.
imminently. I think we're kind of starting to come out of that at this point, but nevertheless, it needs to be addressed.
Okay. All
But
right.
no, I don't, my sense is not that it's a regular occurring like yearly or bi-yearly sort of thing. It's more of just a
Okay.
as needed sort of thing.
Okay.
But I will also make a note here. And at our next capital, at the next meeting when we're doing capital projects and such, I'll try to get a better sense of how often this sort of thing needs to be done. Because obviously, before my tenure on the school committee, this element broke at one point as well. So I think that's why there's also the attention to it and why people are aware of it now. So I'll try to figure that out and see if there's some sort of a schedule that it should be on, and we'll try to work that into our numbers.
Yeah, and I think, from my perspective, the point for you to relay is that if this is a kind of something that's a sort of routine kind of
Yeah.
part of the schedule of what it takes to run the school and run this system, then it probably ought to be reflected in the operating budget.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
that's
That makes perfect sense to me, and I am on board with that 100%.
okay. Any questions for Jeremy, or are we ready to vote? Jim?
Yes, Jeremy, so this work has already started. Jamrog is already working on it.
I don't know if they've actually worked on it. I don't know if they have it, but they have been told that they are going ahead on it. Yes. So I don't know that it's actually scheduled yet. The last time I checked, they had contacted, but it was unclear. I was also asking about how it needed to be funded, if it had to be, if it was going to be billed right away, and that was part of what I was asking. And Anne said that they have been told to go ahead with it, but she's not positive, like whether it was happening this week or next week or exactly when it was happening. But they were told that they should go ahead.
I guess the school is kind of stuck with Jamrock doing HVAC work for them. I was wondering if there was any sort of a chance of getting an estimate from another vendor, or is it too late for that?
I think it's too late for that, because I think it's been waiting and they've been told to go ahead at this point.
I see.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. Again, I don't know. And I guess this is something I can ask again as a school, we're not usually involved in so much of the nuts and bolts of the getting the things done, but in terms of how Jamrog is the company that's doing it, I would have to ask questions to figure out why that was. I don't actually know that.
Well, the reason why maybe I shouldn't mention this, but the broadband committee used Jamrog initially to service its Dakin heat pumps, and that was disastrous. After 5 service calls and things weren't fixed and bills kept coming in, we finally went to another vendor. And so I just would urge some caution.
Yep. I will. That's something that I can have a private conversation with the folks involved around and see. And I guess I am actually kind of curious more so now about I think to go to your question, AJ, about the how often and why. I'm very curious about this specific system right now, our ventilation system, because I didn't fully understand it. And it's obviously something separate. I kind of want to get my eyes on it and get an understanding of what this is all about as well. But all I know is that it is impeding us being at the ventilation that the state is requiring us to be at right now. So that was the impetus for the urgency of it.
Also, can you cover the cost of this currently out of the school's budget, perhaps?
So we don't have the money to cover it. We have the money to cover it right now. We could cover it short term. But no, it's not. There's no money to pay for this. There's no money to actually pay for this, which is why we had to make the reserve request.
Okay.
I mean, we are still concerned, this having been a contract year, we're still gonna have to come up with money that's not evident right now to try to figure out how to like fund to fund that through the end. And we're hoping that there'll be some savings realized or something here or there that we can pick up with that. But no, we do not have these funds right now.
Gabe?
I had the accountant look at your accounts, Jeremy,
Mm-hmm.
and you folks have some sizable balances in your rural aid and your school choice that could maybe cover this until we hit May and can do a reserve fund, an departmental transfer, a line to line, if we have excess in some of our other lines.
Okay.
So I wasn't sure that you folks need to look at it with Union 28. I wasn't so sure that the finances were as dire as you think they are. I think there's quite a bit of money in school choice. So that would cover the cash flow. I think I
Yep.
sent that information to all of you folks after the last meeting, what the balances were in those two accounts.
No, I did not see that, but I will.
So that's a question I have because I'm a little concerned with our reserve fund balance going down as fast as it is. The select board has some huge legal expenses, which I'll explain to the FinCom.
Yep.
Why my concerns are that we're using up the reserve fund and it's only March.
Okay. Yeah, we can definitely look at that. I mean, like, so I guess my answer to Jim was that like we could fund this short term for sure, and I think that's partly what Gabe is saying as well. But according to my, again, I'm not like a huge financial person, but according to our finance director, the money, again, I have to look at the rural aid money. Is my understanding is that is all kind of figured in and spoken for, and we're not sure of it. And maybe Susie's going to talk to that a little bit. The school choice funds, that is an avenue that we could fund short term, I think, for sure.
Susie?
I would suggest that we fund this request out of our FinCom reserve. And at the end of the year, if there are other accounts that need to be covered, we will do what we've been doing, which is making those transfers that Gabe reflected on. But the school does have a policy on how to use school choice. They do have rural aid accounted for in this budget, and it came in lower than was expected. And so I suggest we go ahead and move this. And I think that George told me we have 46,000 right now in our FinCom reserve. And so this would bring it down to 40,000. And if we need to do other transfers, we can do the end of the year transfers from unexpended funds.
Okay. Any other comments or questions, Jim?
So Susie, you're saying we should not listen to Gabe on this? I think Gabe's suggestion was a good one.
I'm
At least that's the
saying
one
I'm not saying we shouldn't listen to her. I'm saying the same rationale she's using can go to the end of the year when if we have legal funds that need to be come up with. And I believe that the school does not, they're going to cover it in the short run. And I feel it's important to cover this through our transfer, and we can vote on it.
April?
Yeah, I'm just curious, it seems like it's half a dozen of one, half a dozen of the other. What would be the advantage or disadvantage of either choice for this transfer? I guess that would be to Gabe.
Yeah, I'll tell you my reasoning. So last year when the budget was created, the select board asked for 70,000 to be in the legal line.
Yeah.
And only 40,000 was put in the legal line, so it's short $30,000. So the reason they're short $30,000 is they have a huge legal case going on right now that is chewing up money faster than we can grow it in the backyard. So I'm concerned because our legal account is drawing low. And with the select board and I talked about this, and they're concerned because they're missing that $30,000. Now that $30,000, where did it go? Evidently, it got given to the buildings. Yes, there's 2 articles. We researched it, we looked it up. And if you look at the building committee that oversees the buildings, they have 70,000 in their account and they should only have 40. So that's where the mistake is. And if you're not certain about it, please talk to the accountant because she proved it out to me. There were 2 articles. So I don't know if those 2 items are related or not. But the problem is you have a town meeting vote and we can't undo that. So we can't say, oops, we made a mistake and move that 30 out of the buildings people and into the legal account. You can't do that legally. So you have to go to a special town meeting. And that was discovered when we had our fall special town meeting, but it was too late. I had just started, and when I found it, I had just started, and I was not able to put it on the special town meeting warrant because we are already posted. So I have told the buildings committee, and they have come to you, and instead of asking for another 40,000, they've only asked for $10,000 because they have that extra 30 in their line item. So now we have this lawsuit case and a legal line that I am very concerned about. So and the other thing I'm concerned about is normally when you do your end of year line to line transfers, you have health insurance budget covers those. This is a discussion I had with our accountant. This year, there is not going to be any excess funds in your health insurance account. So you're not going to have those for your line to line transfers. So we looked at, and I tried to find the email I sent you guys and I don't see it. I will find the balances. The schools are allowed to move money inside their line items. Towns are not. So the school has money in reserve that, yes, I do understand, Susie, your point is well made, that they're committed to other programs and salaries, but they're not all going to be expended in March and April. So I'm thinking that we exercise caution here. You can do the transfer. That's not a big deal. You have the money in the account right now, but you are going to have to deal with the legal expenses at another point. So you may have to have a special town meeting before your annual town meeting and use free cash to cover your legal expenses that pop up if you use up your cash reserve fund. I am a conservative budget person, so I watch our expenses very carefully, and I'm telling people ahead of time before you're on top of it what your situation is. So you can look at this 2 ways, but I want you to have all the information. I want you to make an intelligent decision on what you want to do, knowing that you've got this legal expense looming, you have this error in your budget that didn't put money where it should have gone, and you have needs that keep coming in front of you. So we've done quite a few transfers and they've all been value warranted transfers. They're not unwarranted, and this is warranted. I'm just saying they have plenty of money right now. Ask them to cover it until maybe May 1. You're only talking 8 weeks. They can go ahead and fix the problem. They don't have to not fix the problem. It's only $6,000. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying it's right or wrong to do either one. I just want you to be very aware of the legal situation.
Thank you.
All right. So I want to make sure I understood the part of this conversation that you just shared about the accounting, what sounded like describing an accounting error. So if we could just take a minute to just clarify at this point. So we had a planned a plan to utilize $30,000 of free cash to fund the building committee who had put together uh, uh, a large sort of plan of what the condition, what the sort of issues were in various town-owned buildings and what repairs needed to be made. And I believe that was also part of a warrant article, if I'm not mistaken.
Part of a warrant article, and then the extra money was also put, there's 2 articles in there.
Mhm.
So if you go back to your town meeting vote, I can actually send you guys what those 2 articles are.
Mhm.
If you've got your expenditure report in front of you,
Yeah, I'll pull it up.
go to the building piece where the building committee has their money.
All right, hang on a sec. Let me share this. Um, Building renovations, is that the one? Yeah, okay.
Yes, see how it says 71,201?
Yeah.
There's 30 extra $1,000 in there. That's not an accounting error. That's a budget town meeting error. The accountant, once the town meeting is passed, takes your votes and puts the money where you voted her to put it. And so that article put that 30,000 in there. Now, if you go to your legal
Mhm.
line item, yeah, yes. Rita told me that the select board had requested 70,000 in your legal item. Now, I don't know if those 2 things are related. The high in one area and the low in the other area. I don't know why the 30 wasn't put in the 41. And the building commission, the articles were written the way they were that gave them the extra 30,000. I discovered this in November.
All right.
So that reduced your and they knew they had this lawsuit. And when they meet all day long with 4 attorneys at $300 an hour, a mediator at $2,000, that legal bill for that one day was probably over $10,000.
Right.
So now, right now, our balance in legal is $12,000. And we have not seen the bill for the last all-day legal situation where they met in front of the judge. We haven't seen that bill yet.
I
And
see.
so that's my concern, folks. That's my concern.
Got it. Okay, so you're you're recommending that I think we do a couple things here. One is we assure the school committee and the school leadership through Jeremy here that they should go ahead and proceed. I mean, they've obviously already taken that step of contacting Jamrog and begun to schedule the work. We support them doing the work, and we will. I guess your suggestion is that they utilize some of the fund balances. You threw out 2 suggestions: school choice, rural aid, to pay for that expense in the short term.
Yep.
Come back to us in May, see where they're at in terms of spending out of those 2 accounts and kind of how, as Susie mentioned, there was a detailed plan for how to utilize those funds that was submitted as part of their budget submission to us, but to see kind of where they are in terms of spending those funds, and if needed, we can at that point do either a transfer request or a line to line transfer. Does that sum up what you're?
That's exactly what I'm suggesting. I am suggesting that you give yourself a little more time. The legal bills will have come in. So
Mhm.
we'll know what those expenses are. And
Mhm.
you may have plenty of money in your reserve fund, but right now, I just showed you why I'm concerned about us. Um,
Mhm. Yep. The other sort of tangentially related point here is that I'm realizing as we're having this conversation that I think we probably should be talking to the building committee to get an update on how their planned sort of $30,000 sort of uh, kind of repair plan has played out this year, and what they're thinking about in terms of future repairs for items that were on that inventory. And yeah, but it occurs to me that we really, at least I'll just speak personally, I'm not entirely sure on what the follow-up has been on that action we took last year and kind of what the building committee is doing. So I think I'll reach out to them and see if they're available to join us for at a future meeting to give us an update. But it's good to know that I guess because of um, this budget error, there's plenty of funds in their account, and they shouldn't need to ask for anything beyond $10,000, which, if I remember correctly, is the sort of typical operating expense for building repairs that we've put in the operating budget in previous years. Does that sound right, Susie? I see you're nodding. So yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that because that was one of my questions actually that occurred to me as I was looking at the budget. All right, Jeremy.
So my question is just kind of as a rube to this whole thing.
Mhm.
If the legal funds eat up the reserve funds from the FinCom and we meet up in May and we like, what is the process that happens then if we are still short? I guess that's my question.
I think at that point we'd be looking at authorizing the accountant to either overspend, I guess, that line or whatever line the antifreeze would come out. I don't know if that's the fuel line or I guess it's the school has a single operating line in our budget. But I guess we would be authorizing the accountant to allow that line to be overspent, or we would be authorizing some kind of line to line transfer at that point. Does that sound right, Gabe?
yes, a line to line. The rural aid account has $235,460 in it.
Mhm.
$235,460 in it. That's why we think they can carry it. We're not saying don't reimburse them. We're saying they can carry it because they've got 8 weeks, all the
Mhm.
month of May and all the month of June, and we're going to deal with this. You should deal with this the May 1, the first time in May, starting on May 1, you can do line to line transfers.
Mhm.
At that time, you need to look at your budgets and say, okay, yes, we're ready to do it.
Mhm.
And where we're ready, and we can make a better decision on where to move the money from. That's
Right. I understand. Yeah. Susie.
I'll check into the rural aid number. They only were given 76,000 this year. So, and
I can send you that
yeah.
post and we can actually put it up on share if AJ, I sent
Yeah,
it.
maybe
Yeah.
not now. I think we can solve this problem. I just want to make sure that the number for rural aid that is being accounted for is real. So I'll help look at that because I know like Amherst gets 200,000, but we only get 76.
Okay.
I did just as you were talking earlier, Gabe, I did forward the email to everybody that, or at least everybody that's here, that detailed what you found was available in those balances. Okay, so we have a suggestion for how to handle this from Gabe. Susie, I think earlier you were potentially gonna make a motion for a FinCom transfer. I mean, if anybody's inclined to do that, we that's obviously uh, members are entitled to do that. So I don't know if we're comfortable moving forward with Gabe's suggestion, or if anybody feels like they would prefer to handle this with a transfer request tonight. Jim?
Yeah, can we have a vote to move ahead with Gabe's suggestions on this? I think that would be good to do.
Okay. Not sure that I'm not sure that needs a vote because we're not really taking
All right.
an action, but I just wanted to. My point is just I just want to give folks an opportunity if somebody was inclined to make a motion. I just want to give them the space to do that because that was at least one of the potential outcomes here. But I'm not seeing any hands, so I think I'll take that as confirmation that we would prefer to move forward with the plan that Gabe outlined. Jeremy, do you feel like?
Yep,
I
that
know
works.
this isn't exactly what you were looking
Yeah,
for.
no, that
but-
works for me, and I have my notes as far as figuring out. Yeah, that works for me, and I'll pass that along, and we can
Okay.
figure it out come May. That's fine with me.
Yeah, and the only other thing I would say is, if the principal, anybody needs like a more detailed explanation,
Yep.
they can reach out to me directly, or
Okay.
Gabe, they can also.
All right, I appreciate all of your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right.
Bye, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I think next up is I was hoping that we could get an update on, but I'm not sure we can. I wanted to see if we could get an update on what capital requests had been made, and I think Gabe, you forwarded a request from the school, and then
Highway.
the highway department had basically two separate requests.
Yep.
So I guess maybe one question, Gabe, I believe capital planning has met, right?
I went to their meeting
Okay.
and it was a preliminary meeting. They didn't make any decisions. They spoke with the highway boss about the two pieces of equipment that he's looking for. He's looking for a zero-turn mower, and he's looking for a grader, and the grader is the expensive piece.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I do have a piece of information that I want to share with you folks.
Mhm.
In that Chapter 90 has started a new program, and it's a lease program. And if you use the Chapter 90 program and you lease the piece of equipment through their program, they will commit Chapter 90 money to pay the payment every year. Now, they do subtract it from your Chapter 90 allotment,
Mhm.
but it is a way for towns that can't afford pieces of equipment to get pieces of equipment. If they do not fund it, now you cannot vote an appropriation for it. There's some strings attached, and Dave Grenier and I are trying to get this hammered out so that you have decisions and choices to make. If, say, the state doesn't fund it in the second year, then the company that gives you the piece of equipment, that leases it to you, takes it back.
Mhm.
And if you go with the program for the 5 years that they allow this piece of equipment to be financed, then the last year you pay $1 and you own the piece of equipment. So I don't know if anybody has any questions. I know I explained that pretty quickly. And I don't know what conditions or what needs paving in Shutesbury. I don't know if this is something the FinCom would consider. Because it is, I don't know, how much Chapter 90 do you get every year? Does anybody know? Is it like 300 grand?
I have no idea.
Okay. So that's a question. And then the payment would probably be around 80,000 a year. So it's an option for purchasing a piece of equipment that Chapter 90 is doing for rural towns. It's a new program.
Mhm.
That was part of the capital planning discussion.
Yeah.
Not 100%. We did bring the lease idea forward, but what I didn't realize when we brought it forward that night is that the payment is not made out of town funds. The payment is made out of Chapter 90 funds.
Right. Basically, a debit taken from your, whatever your chapter 90.
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
See a couple of hands, April and then Susie.
Yeah, trying to remember what I was, what I was thinking about. So what about maintenance and repairs on the lease? Is that the town's responsibility? Because I'm assuming these are not new pieces of equipment.
They are brand new pieces of equipment, so they have the
Oh.
full warranty.
Okay,
A grader's gonna cost you around $500,000.
so this would be 4 years at maybe 80,000,
5 years at
5
like
years.
4% interest is what they're telling us right now.
Hmm.
4% is a pretty good rate.
Yeah,
Mhm. Okay. Susie.
So this sounds like a good deal because the state gave us a bump this year in chapter 90 money, a specific separate bump. And I guess I'm gonna ask George if that bump could be used to help pay for a grader.
Mhm.
And he thought not that way, but it sounds like the lease is a way that does give you access to that money to use for equipment. Does that sound right, Gabe?
It sounds right, and that extra money that they gave you folks was for any reason.
Okay,
So I think we need to dot our i's and cross our t's and make sure that chapter 90 agrees with everything before we sign on the dotted line. And we can get that information as tight as we can before your town meeting.
that's great, because I think that will address an important need.
I'm just looking up on I think I see a searchable website on mass.gov that indicates the chapter 90 apportionments for different jurisdictions. It looks like ours is listed as $132,000.
Mhm.
That sounds right to folks, but.
If
So-
that's all you're getting is 132, you may not want to commit 5 years worth of chapter 90 to a piece of equipment. That's something to think about.
I'm
But
reading the
they've,
website.
they've been
Yeah.
giving you an extra allotment, and we need to know how much that was. I know in New Salem it's 100,000. That's the extra, but I don't know how many miles of roads that Shutesbury is getting money for.
Mhm. So maybe there's some additional award on top of what I'm seeing
I
here.
think so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, got it. All right. Jim.
Yes, is capital planning still debating whether to spend money on a new grader or perhaps fix the old one? I'm told through reliable sources that it would cost the town $16,500 to repair the grader, and that might be a little bit better investment than splurging $500,000 on a new one. I don't know whether that debate has been finalized or has come to a conclusion or not. Gabe, you might know.
They had the debate. David is concerned about more than just doing that repair on the cylinders that are leaking. And I don't remember the year, but I think the thing is 40 years old.
1998.
1998. Okay. So it's not 40 years old, but it's old. And he's got more concerns about other pieces and parts of it. And that grader is used on all your dirt roads. So it is a valuable piece of equipment. They also discussed leasing it. So seeing if Brookside or somebody would lease them a loader for the summer, but put lease, rental into your budget somehow. So those are all options that capital planning has tossed around at their last meeting. I know they're meeting again, but I don't know how swift they're meeting and what their conclusions are, but they did talk about it, Jim.
Just one thing to add, reading the submission on this, I think it is a 40-year-old grader, but I think we've been operating it
Right.
1998. So I think we must have obtained it as a used.
We bought it used. That's right. You're jogging my memory. Yep.
And the quote on that Dave sent us, it says he has a quote for 330,000 and another one for 385. So not 500,000 on this quote.
So I was wondering, Susie, if those are quotes for brand new vehicles or if those are potentially used equipment that I don't know if.
I think they're brand new.
Those are brand new. He said he felt it was time to get a new one somewhere.
Yeah, okay, got it. All right, so I think my sense is that I'm assuming, like, rather than us have to do this work, I'm assuming that the capital planning committee is going to make a recommendation about whether to fund a new grader or lease one or pursue this Chapter 90 program. So, right, I think we can. I don't think we have to have a lengthy discussion about it tonight. I think we should hear what they're going to flesh out that and debate that issue and make a recommendation. So let's see what they decide or what they recommend as the best course of action. Gabe, did the school talk about their sidewalk paving project at the meeting, or are they coming at a future meeting?
The school was not there. The capital planning did talk about it because they're giving a very loose number, an
Yeah.
estimate, and capital planning is telling them that they want a firmer number, that they actually want some quotes and not just an off the cuff. I mean, the spread is pretty wide on what they're asking for. So I don't know. That has not been determined yet. I think they sent a note saying you need to come back with a better number.
So, but we think it's probably likely that they are going to do some clarification and estimating and getting research and are going to make a request this year.
Yes.
I
guess it's pretty bad. I haven't been over there, but the driveway's pretty bad.
Well, I feel like we've been hearing about it for many years in a row now. So I'm guessing it probably is time. Kathy.
Yeah, I don't know if you guys have heard anything from the Stormwater and Erosion Task Force, but they may come up with suggestions that some of the dirt roads get paved. I don't know how quickly they're going to be making recommendations to the select board, but I know they've been meeting and looking at all aspects of the erosion issues around the lake, a lot of which is tied to the dirt road. So that may be something that comes into the conversation at some point as well.
Yeah.
All right, Susie.
I saw, what did I see? An email that the school was planning an appointment to go to work together at looking at the parking lot. So they're working on clarifying their request.
Okay. All right, and that's the extent of at least the potential capital projects that we've heard about, right? Is there anything, Gabe, that I haven't
Not
mentioned?
that I'm aware of, and it actually, you have this, I don't know if it's a bylaw, but you have this rule that has to be submitted by a certain date. And so now nobody can submit anything. So they should have what they have
Mhm.
and be able to go forward and make it a recommendation.
Okay, great. All right. So I think what we're going to need to do. Why am I still sharing? Sorry. What we're going to need to do after we have capital planning's recommendations is we're going to have to look at George's capital funding tool that we've used, and that's this one. Folks may recognize. Okay. That's 25. So 6. All right. So that we don't pay attention to these. I put in a few placeholders just based on the submission forms, but obviously those are pretty rough numbers right now. But just want to give people kind of a heads up of where we are right now before we get those capital planning recommendations from the committee. We have, let's see, almost $1 million of free cash and a little over $600,000 in stabilization funds. I suspect that, the school repaving project probably would be a pretty good candidate for us to pay using one of those sources, but I guess we can discuss that. And then the grader and same with the mower. The grader is a little bit more of a complicated discussion. It's obviously a much bigger ticket item, and sounds like there's a few different scenarios. And a couple of them don't involve us outright purchasing a vehicle next year, but leasing or utilizing a public program. But so this is what we're going to have to do after we hear from capital planning. We're also going to have to have a discussion about if we're going to utilize any free cash to fund specific items in our operating budget, which is never ideal, but we've done it a couple times now, including last year. And given the deficit that we're looking at right now, seems like we're at least gonna have to have a discussion about that. All right. So any questions about sort of the capital planning process? Everybody clear on kind of how we're going to move forward? All right. I think what I'll do now is, April, I was going to ask you if you were able to talk about the COLA
Yes.
calculations. I do have, George sent me a spreadsheet, which I can share.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's worth, I mean, we usually do have a discussion about kind of what the plan is for this year. Let's see.
Right there, we have two parts of it. Is the COLA, and then there's still the salary, the alignment with other towns for certain positions.
Yeah.
So it's a two-part
All right.
game.
Can you give us kind of a overview? So this is, maybe we'll start with the COLA.
Yep.
And,
yeah. So
all right.
there it is. There you are. So what we found is over a year, we've been using this 4-year rolling average with a 4% guardrail on each. And so that's where those numbers have all come from. It's 3 years rolling average. So what we were landing on is for this year is looking at a 3.32% raise for employees.
All right. And that's basically an average of these 3 years,
Yep,
2 of which were capped at that guardrail of 4%. And
that's correct.
got it. Okay.
And so that was for just across the board, except for anybody on well, not necessarily that's across the board. And then we were looking at, just the average wages for all of the positions in town and found there were, I believe, 6 that were, we came up with if it was 5% or more off of the average, that we would recommend bringing it up to the average. Which I know for the treasurer, I believe it was I don't have it in front of me. It was 11%. I mean, it looks alarming, but again, it's a way to keep our employees, well fed and,
Mhm.
and present. And we had fallen behind. I think what happened with our, the year that we gave a 1.75% is when that really set us behind other towns. So we need to do some more correction there, but the 3.32 is where because the indices were much higher than we had expected for this year. We were working at something lower. So yeah,
Got it.
3.32.
Okay. All right. So that's going to be and has the committee, like, is there a process where you guys vote on that and approve it, and has that happened? Or?
No, it has not happened. We wanted to look again at before we did that piece, we wanted to look at and really nail down the numbers for the salaries and wages that were quite a ways off. So we're meeting again on, I think, the 12th. Is that right? The 12th of March.
Right.
That
And
makes sense.
are you able to say, like, are
How
there
much?
how many positions are potential?
Yes.
And I'm assuming
I think there were 6 of them. Maybe I
Okay.
can find, I don't know how to screen share, but maybe I can find it. Is that on the document you have?
let me see.
It could be, if you
this-
pull it down. Yeah.
Right. Did I
No.
pass it?
No.
This looks like it's just COLA information.
Yeah. There's a whole other sheet.
And
Where is that?
At the bottom,
Oh,
other
wait.
tabs.
The other tabs look like they were just
Okay.
other years. Yeah.
Let me see if I can find it.
Um,
Okay. No, I think I'm just seeing that one. Let me see. No. Da. I hate this. No, I keep coming up with the same one. Sorry, I've got 2 different emails that are used.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's okay. I mean, if it's not, I mean,
Yeah,
it sounds like it sounds like, I mean, I was
Here.
just looking for sort of like just a very preliminary
oh
indication.
yeah. Here's the salary. I found it. So what we're looking at, there were 6 positions.
Mhm.
Whoops.
6 positions that were sort of out of,
That were going to be affected by this, and it was the accountant, the administrative assistant. That's a question because it's a person that was just hired. So that may, but that may not be impacted. But the assessor's clerk, assistant town clerk, collector, town clerk, and treasurer were the 6 that, and they were ranging from being like 11% off to up to, the accountant is 27% off the average with comparable towns.
okay. All right.
And I can forward this.
It's probably too early but like, would you even be able to say what the sort of potential
The numbers,
dollar impact would be to get these?
no,
It's just-
no. And that I can definitely get for you by our next meeting.
Right. So is that something that's also going to be, like, are you guys taking action on that in terms of making recommendations at your next meeting? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Got it.
Yes.
All right.
And I think what George had, for the COLA, I think he had put in 2 point something
Mhm.
as a placeholder. So this is 3.32.
Okay. So, all right. So that's going to have an impact on the budget, but okay.
Right.
So, all right. So no, that I don't think we need to go into any more detail on that, but it's good that you gave us a little preview of what we might be hearing
Yes.
at our next meeting. So I'll make sure that we
Because
have,
we'll be meeting the week before your next meeting.
okay. All right. I want to do a couple things. One is I wanted to talk about kind of nail down our budget process and timeline. So let me just grab something here. Schedules. Okay. All right. So we have an annual town meeting scheduled for April 26th. We're going to do our budget information session sometime that week prior to the meeting.
Yeah.
So I assume the warrant articles, I'm trying to remember the timing of this, like we have to actually attend a select board meeting and make our vote on whether we're recommending each of those articles that have budget implications. Is that happen 2 weeks prior?
Yep.
Okay.
It has, the warrant has to be posted 2 weeks before town meeting.
Okay, so that would be, let's see,
Has to be posted by the 12th.
okay, so that's April 12th. Okay, which means we're probably gonna have to be, we're gonna have to like be prepared to vote on whether to approve warrant or recommend warrant articles like on the 8th, right? Does that seem?
Yeah, looks like that.
Okay, so let's say Tuesday, April 8th. Attend select board meeting and vote on warrant articles. Okay. All right. So what does that mean for us to have our, like, should we say that our deadline for having a final budget is April 1?
Yeah.
Okay. Final FY26 budget. Yeah. All right. So that means that we really have 2 meetings. Well, really tonight and one more meeting. Tomorrow, the 18th is going to be, I think, a pretty pivotal meeting for us, and we may have to schedule another meeting on
20
25th,
25th.
right?
Mhm.
I'm just going to put it on here as an open date. The potential meeting. Okay. All right. All right. So I just it's been bothering me to not have these dates figured out. So okay. So now we know what we're working with. I'm assuming we don't really know when capital planning is meeting next. We know that they're in the process of scheduling another meeting. I'm assuming that they've got one more meeting and they're going to be prepared to make some recommendations. I'm hoping that's the case because I don't think we can really have that part of the discussion drag out too much further, because part of what we need to grapple with is, like if we are going to use free cash reserves to fund items on our budget, like we kind of need to know what how much we're using for capital projects, right? In order to be able to make you know a thoughtful decision about that, but okay. All right, so that's kind of our timeline. I'm gonna pull up the latest budget and Gabe sent this just today, so we are looking at. Okay. So this is the latest budget, but there's a bunch of things that are still in flux. So let's make sure we're clear on what those are. It sounds like one of them is that we've got the wrong COLA, right? In here as that it was in here as a placeholder, but that needs to be bumped up to 3.32%. Is that right, Gabe? Right? We have George's had a different
Right,
place.
George did 2.95, I believe.
Yeah.
And he has a formula sheet that does this automatically once he puts it in, so I'll need his help with that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Just that.
All right. So
Um,
that's one thing that's going to have an implication. We have contract negotiations that are happening now that impact a couple of lines, right? That's
So the big impact you're gonna have is your police chief contract negotiations.
Okay.
And that I can't, there's a marker in there, but it's not accurate. It's just to give you a marker. The select board should be finalizing this and meeting with the police chief in the next week.
Okay, good.
To go over that. We have reached a tentative agreement, but again, it's the select board that has to meet with them and discuss it. That's just a marker. I don't want
Yeah.
people to panic out there.
Right.
So one of the corrections we've made to this
Mhm.
is the longevity, the holiday pay.
Mhm.
I don't know why the holiday pay didn't represent the holiday pay. That $1,800 is an arbitrary number. It could be a guess that she'll take half of her holidays and then she'll work half of her holidays. I'm not used to budgeting like that, so I budgeted all 12 holidays and put the 4,000 in there and made that adjustment.
I see.
If you want to change that, that's fine with you folks, but I always like to reflect what it really is going to cost you
Yeah.
if she ends up working all 12 holidays.
And those are going to be those are. I mean, that's an item that's specified in the contract, right?
Yes, she gets, that's, I believe it's mass law that she
Yeah.
gets paid for her holidays, but it is in her contract.
Okay.
Okay, there were only two other, I made an adjustment. There were two longevities, 150 for a police office, under the police.
Mhm.
And so I added that, and there was 150 under the library for a longevity. I redid the longevity sheet. The longevity sheet ended on 22, so I did it from 23 to 38
Mhm.
and figured out what everybody's gonna be in the next 5, 6 years. So you only had a $300 impact on longevity for this year, and I put those in those two areas. The library has a longevity line. And I did get in touch with Maya, and thank God my estimate was good. I was only off like $50. So your insurance number is accurate. So we don't have to play with that. So that's the good news I got this last week, not this week, last week. And I think, oh, the other adjustment I had to make was the library. So and it's in the town custodial. It's not in the library because for some reason, and I do understand why you do it this way, but the custodial expenses come under the town maintenance accounts. I think they're further up, or there they are. What,
Yeah.
no,
Okay.
where's custodian?
Isn't that this?
Yes, I had to, yes, so your custodian wages, and it looks like I didn't adjust it.
Mhm.
That's your custodian wages for the man who's cleaning now. The library is telling me that they need 5 hours a week cleaning the new library. We use the library rate, which is $19 and something an hour. And we multiplied it out, and I think I'm coming up with, let me do it real quick.
Yeah.
I can send you a new sheet. It's 52.2 weeks in a year, 261 times 20. It's increasing that custodial budget about $5,220 to clean the library.
5,220.
Yeah.
Does that take out the current effort he puts in at the other library, the current?
He
library?
hasn't cleaned the other library since COVID. It has not been cleaned. They shut the bathroom down over there, and Mary Ann does her own vacuuming, and they do their own cleaning over there. But your new library, because of the square footage and all, it's got 3 bathrooms, not no bathroom. So you've got 3 bathrooms to clean, plus the floors are linoleum or marmor or whatever it is. Those are going to have to be cleaned, stripped, and waxed once a year as well. You know, there's custodial maintenance that's going to have to be done. And we have asked the personnel board to draw up a job description, because our current custodian works a full-time job during the day, and he's been with this town, I think, 20 some odd years. He may not be able to add the library to his repertoire. And so we are budgeting for another hire there. It won't be a benefit position or any of that, but you do need a custodian. So those were the only changes I had.
Okay. So I'm trying to think of what are some of the other important items that are sort of still open items. So one is, you know, we will have to see what the regional assessment comes in at. Right now, the placeholder is based on the budget that was presented at the Four Towns meeting. The region had its budget hearing last week. They are meeting on March 18th to discuss the budget. And then I think they're going to have one more meeting after that where they vote. So I don't know if that's a week or 2 weeks after that, March 18th. But that's when they're going to have a budget that they've voted on. Susie, you had your hand up, right? Was that?
Yeah, a couple things. We heard at a rally today, Lynn Grismer said that Amherst is going to go to 4% instead of 3.5. So they get to decide how that affects things. It might reduce the cut that was anticipated. It might change the assessments. I don't know, but Amherst choosing to go to 4% was good news.
Okay, that's good. That is good news. I mean, I guess the question of how that might impact our assessment is a separate question, right? I don't know if they're just gonna recalculate the statutory formula using that, but we'll see. Okay, got it. That's good news.
There is another, Gabe and I worked to figure out about the gasoline spill. And she got a hold of Jeffrey Arps, and it looks like there's no remediation steps in the plan right now, and there's a monitoring process. So the 2 lines, 135 and 136, where are those? No, how did this happen? Oh, great. Oh, is it out here? I don't know how the numbering is different as a
This is the fire station mitigation stuff, right?
This is the gas spill at the fire station, right?
Okay.
So there it is,
yeah.
247 and 248. That we might choose to do just 5,000 out of free cash, and the other operating expense might not have to happen.
Okay.
Gabe, is that is that your sense of what ARP said?
Yes. So you can set the 5,000 aside in an article and it'll stay there. I don't know if it'll be enough, or you can set an article of 10, it's all how you want to use your free cash. You can do 10,000 in an article and remove the 10,000 out of your budget.
Okay.
All right, I'm not gonna do anything now, but that's good to know. All right. And then I think we also have to have this discussion about whether we're gonna add a PFAS mitigation line here or expense line here, and whether we're gonna fund that from free cash.
So I do have a little more information about that.
Yeah.
Last time I was here, we were debating on how often they tested.
Mhm.
They do test once every 6 months, so whoever said that was right.
Mhm.
And then the idea is to move to once a year testing. And the cost of putting in a POET system, nuts to soup to nuts, is $3,000 per household. So I think you need to plan for some of those because we don't know how many households are going to come online. And then I can figure out the annual cost of testing. I have all the bills now. I've been working on that last week. So it's probably going to run between $30,000 and $40,000 that I would want to write an article for
And the testing,
the testing. Yep.
got it. And then we're probably gonna wanna make some assumption about how many poet installations.
Right. And then I don't know if we have a new contract with Jeff, with Ty and Bond, or if the one they have will cover us for another year. I think it will cover us for another year. We're monitoring that pretty closely, how we're going through the funds on that. So,
All right, so let's, so I think it'd be helpful if at our next meeting, if we can have kind of some good assumptions about sort of the global cost of testing and installations and whatever.
Yep.
Uh,
I agree, because I have to start writing articles. I only have 2 weeks to start putting this thing together. So,
I think we'll discuss it when we talk about capital planning, but it does seem like we've already kind of, I think informally, we've talked about utilizing free cash to fund this. It seems like that's the direction we're heading, but, okay. And I think, I think I was looking, I think we have at least $250,000 of free cash and $175,000 of stabilization funds before we get really close to those guideline levels that, we've been operating under, where, we want to see 10% of our annual operating budget in free cash reserves and 5% in stabilization funds. So I think we've got a fair amount of room to play with there for exactly this kind of an item. Susie.
And I would say that the kind of budget that we're in, I would project less free cash accumulating at the end of FY 25. So it's good to have those guidelines because it doesn't look like it will replenish at the same rate.
Yeah. Just because we're spending we're spending out our budget at closer to 100% than we have in recent years. Yeah. Got it. Okay, I think one of the things that we ought to do some thinking about in anticipation of our discussion at the next meeting are what are some items in the operating budget that are at least potential candidates for funding through operating costs. And I think it's fair. I think it's fair to say that when we've done this in the past, we've looked for items that are unusual hits for a particular fiscal year and are not the kinds of ongoing recurring expenses. I don't know if anybody else has any other ideas about how we should think about what's a good kind of operating expense to fund with free cash, but or with cash reserves. But I think that's kind of how we talked about it in the past. I think, Susie, if I remember correctly, our out of district placement costs for tuition and transportation that we have, those are being funded right now with
Cash.
with not out of the operating budget for the school, right? But from like school choice, and is that
Um, let's see.
I was trying to I
Well,
tried,
didn't we use some cash reserves for was it like 40,000?
yeah, last year for in FY25 we definitely did.
Okay,
I was trying to look at the school's FY26 budget.
Yeah.
And in their operating budget, I was trying to look for where do we see that expense, and I couldn't really find it. And then I think I saw it on that page where they list how they propose to use grant funds and school.
yeah, so the IDEA grant, federal grant, they're doing out of district tuition for 43,919. And they're using some circuit breaker out of district transportation for 20,005. And was there something else? I'm looking at school choice. No,
Okay.
none of it out of school choice. So it's those two, one federal grant and the circuit breaker, which is state. And the state this year underfunded their circuit breaker number. And when we talked to Aaron Saunders, he said there's sometimes a supplemental budget at the end of the fiscal year that pays off some of those deficits.
Got it. Okay. All right. So I think everybody should do some thinking about, are there items that we could have a discussion about funding with cash reserves, and that are justifiable, because we are looking right now. We're looking at a gap of $368,000. That's before, we know we're increasing the police chief salary once this negotiation is completed. We know we have, we're underestimating the COLA that's going to be voted on next week. It's possible that we're going to see a higher assessment from the region now that Amherst has increased its amount. I don't know that they might recalculate ours using the statutory. I have no idea, but that's a possibility. So we are looking at a sizable gap that we've got to figure out how we're going to fund it. Which, speaking of, I'm going to share with you as soon as we wrap up a document that George prepared. I'm going to just pull it up right now. I found this really helpful to look at, and I'm just going to kind of explain it now, but we won't actually need to talk about it until next meeting. Okay. So what George did was he, every year he kind of uses our, assumptions, property tax rate assumptions, and calculates an average tax bill, so the average single family tax bill. So in FY25, it was $6,260. And what George has done with the different columns here is calculate what the incremental impact of utilizing different amounts of excess levy capacity are going to have on the average single family tax bill. So you can see here in these columns, he's got a bunch of different scenarios ranging from using $50,000 of excess levy capacity all the way up to $350,000. And in row 38 here, you can see what the incremental increase in the average tax bill from FY25 to FY26 using those different assumptions is going to be. So you can see for the maximum scenario of utilizing $350,000 of excess levy capacity, that's going to result in an increase in the average single family tax bill of $621, which is roughly a 10% increase from FY25, all the way down to this scenario where we're only utilizing $50,000 of excess levy capacity, which is going to lead to an increase of $293 in the average tax bill, which amounts to 4.7%. Anyway, this I think is important because it seems pretty clear to me that we're going to have to deal with this current, gap in our budget by, some combination of utilizing excess levy capacity and utilizing some reserves to fund specific items in our operating budget. And then the third scenario, which we have to, we may have specific recommendations about funding levels for certain budgets, department budgets, that we would like to modify. And I think in that scenario, if we're going to do any of that, I think Susie made a suggestion at our last meeting about potentially needing to meet with department heads to talk about our proposed budget. To me, that seems important if one of our solutions to this budget deficit is taking somebody's proposed FY26 budget and actually budgeting some amount below that. I think if we're going to take that step, I think the kind of meeting you suggested, Susie, is definitely warranted. If we're not going to do that, I'm not sure that's a necessary step. But so those, I think, unless somebody has any other ideas, it seems to me that those are the kind of three tools we have at our disposal to deal with this budget deficit. Am I missing anything? Susie?
I want to say that right now, Shutesbury is right smack in the middle of the state list of the average single-family tax bill. Also, all the towns in Massachusetts are in this position. We are not alone on this, and it's difficult to have our town meeting this early in the game because we may not even hear from the House Ways and Means what their proposal is. So we have to prepare this without knowing anything more than knowing the governor's recommendation is not like knowing where it's going to go. So we don't know how the state might come through for us in any way. And there might be a good reason to have a meeting with the departments even if we don't go into cutting department budgets, because whatever we propose, this year's budget is a tough one. And we would want the departments to recognize each other's efforts. Everybody came in with level services except for the regional school, which took a cut below level services. That's a pretty significant differential. And so sometimes people just say, oh, it's the schools. Well, in this case, the regional school has a bigger budget cut than any of the town budgets. So we might need to have a meeting with the departments to have them understand the picture that we're going to bring to town meeting. And if it doesn't include cuts, I think we'd be lucky. But also to get them to appreciate each other and be supportive at town meeting.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. Can I ask a clarifying question, Susie? Would it be accurate to describe the police department's FY26 budget as a level of services budget? Since they are basically planning, it's like a new staffing plan, right? I mean, it's
But the old staffing plan would have been more expensive.
Mhm.
And so it's not like they're increasing hours.
No.
They are
level.
reorganizing it by the fact that it would be really hard to find, put together a part-time department full enough. And in doing the plan she has, it covers vacation times and stuff like that in a way that the part-timers did not do. So I do not believe that there's any more service. It is organized differently. And the contract is why it's more expensive.
Right. Okay. All right. So I think given the schedule, I think it's going to be really important that everybody be prepared to share ideas at our next meeting for how to, yeah, for how we're going to deal with the current deficit that we're looking at right now. We'll obviously have better information. But I think it seems pretty clear to me that we're going to be looking at a budget that has an increase of 7 to 8%, somewhere in that range, right? In terms of the increase in operating expenses. That's a big number, and we've got to we're gonna have to come up with a creative approach to dealing with that. And I think it's going to involve some combination of those different tools we just talked about. Okay. Anything else that folks need to discuss? I guess we should deal with minutes while we've got a little bit of time. April?
Yeah, I just have one thing.
Yeah.
If we are hoping to do a meeting with departments, that's going to happen probably by March 18th. I mean, that's the deadline of that is coming up.
Well,
and is that something that we want to do?
I don't think we can have that meeting until we have our budget worked up. At least something, if not final, that's very, very close to final. And so our next meeting is March 18th. And so
oh no, yeah, I'm off a week. That's right. That's
So
right.
March 25th is the
25th.
meeting we put in, and that would be
Yes.
timely enough, because I think overall the PR on this, the getting information out, I don't mean PR in a negative way or a spin way. I mean, we need to get information out to the townspeople too. So maybe March 25th is the target date for talking with departments, and then continue that conversation out into the public.
Yeah, I think that's right. So so we talked about March 25th as an open potential meeting date. I think we should all just plan on, it's going to be very likely that we're going to need to meet that week. So if you can you know, accommodate that, that would be great. All right. Let's take a look at minutes from. All right, and if there's any kind of, I'm going to share the minutes from February 18th. If there are any questions, we might have to hold off until George is back, but.
George gave me the, what do you call it? The editable
Okay,
version. So he said if there were edits, I should put them in and then we'll submit them.
all right. I didn't see any myself. Did folks have a chance? Jim? Are you muted, Jim? Yeah, you're muted.
Can you, oh, here it is. Is this?
Sorry about that. Yes, I have two edits for part one of the broadband.
Okay, just let me, I had it. I need to write the corrections on it
Okay.
because I'm a pencil and paper person. All right, where did I put it? I know that the first item had a vocabulary problem. All right, I can't find it. Wait a minute. Maybe. Nope. Okay, I'll just write it down. Okay,
All right. You-
yeah,
Okay. Part one, item B, a price increase is expected. Could you delete due to weather events, delete that and replace it with due to National Grid pole upgrade project last year?
project, okay.
And the last one is line 11. I guess these suddenly became letters and not numbers. At least that was add to line 11, which is
Where's 11?
yeah,
Wait a minute, I don't see 11.
yeah, I know it. I'm trying to. It's one. I think it's the second. It's
Is it the
the
monthly subscription fee one?
Okay.
Um,
Okay,
yes. Add to 11. The lowest is, yeah. Shutesbury is the lowest subscription fee in the state, and then just add on to that sentence for equivalent municipal services.
okay. Okay. Oh, I know, in A, 1A, read the
Mhm.
end of that sentence. I'm not sure what it was supposed to be.
Total operations cost is forecast to be 360,
Right, right, right.
lower
Lower.
than the FY
Should be lower than the FY 25.
amount. Yeah,
Yeah.
And is that true? That would be lower than the FY 25.
Yes, that makes lower than FY, then I guess it means FY 25,
right.
which is that amount of money.
Okay,
Yeah, maybe you can put the amount in parentheses or something. So lower than the FY 25 amount, and then in parentheses, you could have 367, 840.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
doesn't that mean a negative number? Never mind.
All right, Jim, was that it on your end?
Yeah, that's it on my end.
Anybody else have any questions or suggestions or edits? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Second,
Kathy?
Can I just ask a question? I had missed that meeting because I was on my way to Florida, but I wanted to review the meeting, the recorded meeting, and it wasn't up yet. Because I thought if I had watched the recording, I'd be
Mhm.
able to vote on the minutes. So without that, I have to abstain, is that correct?
That's right, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How quickly are the recordings usually available?
It depends.
Yeah,
Varies quite a bit.
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
I can ask Grace about it. I wonder if there's been a change in how these things get posted now that we have separate Zoom accounts for the different committees. But
Well, there was a big change just a short time ago because I know that we lost a meeting, so to speak, because Grace had changed all the passwords, or I don't know what happened, but there was this big hullabaloo with Zoom, and things were changed, and that cost us a meeting because we couldn't, because we all tried to like log in and we couldn't, because the password had been changed. So it's a volatile situation, I guess, to some degree. You never know exactly how things are going to work out.
all right, I'll follow up with Grace. I don't think there's anything I'm supposed to be doing because I got an email about changing Zoom accounts, but I didn't see anything about posting recordings. Okay, so I think we're ready to vote.
Hemingway, aye.
Cashew, eye.
Probably Mosier eye.
Salvador abstain.
And Stein, I. I just screwed us up when people are missing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
So,
but we have forum on that.
yeah, who starts? Who's on first?
Yeah.
It's in on my agenda. Does anybody have anything else they need to discuss? Maybe anything from any other committees or?
Do you want me to ask Shannon at the business office? What if
What
there's
the
a new
plan is?
sheet? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch, so they're discussing the budget at their next meeting, which is the 18th. So I'm gonna, that is a ways away. So that's our night. What am I saying?
That's all right.
So yeah, we do need to talk. Sure. I think that would be
Okay,
helpful.
I'll reach out to her.
Yeah. I think the important thing to keep in mind though is given that timing, right, where we're going to have to make an assumption that may end up getting changed, because they're not going to vote. They're not going to vote. I know that they said specifically that the 18th they're discussing the budget, but they're not going to take a vote that night. So it's going to be at some meeting after that. Okay.
And
Anything?
yeah, I made a list of factors that go from the outside world to our local budget. And it's just for thinking about. So I wonder if I can distribute that.
Yeah, please do.
Okay, so I'll send it to people.
Yeah, and I'm gonna send everybody that spreadsheet that George shared, because I think it's helpful to have this information, this kind of big picture information as we're talking about what we're gonna do with our budget this year. So yes, please.
Okay.
Please share that.
Okay,
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn our meeting.
second,
Hemingway, aye.
Cashew, eye.
Mosier eye,
Salvador, I.
And Stein, I.
8:07, 8:08,
Night.
very good.
All right, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.